Khanyakude. Welcome back to our YouTube channel. I am Gogo Khanyakude, Mabuza Mshengu Shabalala, Fongalama Vusolo Panago. And thank you for all of those who have subscribed to the channel. Carry on to support, the content with your likes, with your comments, and all of your shares. If you're new to this channel, please do not forget to hit the subscribe button, switch on the notification bell so that you can have a pulse-to-pulse interaction and know whenever new content is loaded. On today's video, we're going to be answering a Q&A which I did on Instagram, and the topic was around sex and spirituality. So I invited everyone to ask questions that they wanted to know when it refers to sex within a spiritual sort of a context, and I'm going to be answering those questions for you today on this video. Tozan Mag. So let us get into it. When we speak around, maybe let's define sex. Sex within a spiritual context is understood as a sacred exchange of energy. So what is meant by a sacred exchange of energy? We understand that when you walk into a certain space, you can pick up whether the space feels light, feels heavy, invites for you, to experience certain emotions. When we meet certain people inspire certain feelings within us. That is already an energetic exchange, because energy is in every part and every form of living expression, right? So now when we speak around sex specifically as a representative of an energy, what sex represents is the most powerful energy of creation, because through sex, that is when we become creator. The reason we are all alive here, and I am sharing this, is because my parents engaged in the process of creation, which is known as sex, which means that they tapped into their god or goddess self in order to then be able to create. It is the only time that we can authentically tap into that creational force. So today, when we speak around and answer these questions of sex, it will be within that context as to what bearing does sex have for you, and within the context of the questions that all of my Instagram followers have asked. Without really going too far into it, let us get into the questions. So, at Lucia Maddock asked, what will happen to you if you sleep with your partner right after your Indwaso ceremony? This is a beautiful one. So I'll answer it within the context that I understand as umuntu lo thwase sunguni limalopo nomzawe. So we understand that during your process of initiation, you lent or you abstain, uyazila, from sex, which means that you do not have sex so that you are in energetic integrity with your own vibration without taking in other people's vibrations, so that you can connect to the essence of who you are. So during the process of Intwaso, as I've mentioned, you are encouraged to not have sex. Actually, you're not allowed to have sex. Once you have finished your Intwaso, there are certain protocols which will be communicated to you by your Gobela as to how it is that you can then go back to reawakening that sexual body. There are certain rites of passages and rituals in which you would then do in order to be able to honor the fact that you are now a spiritual being who is having sex. So I will not go into giving away the sacred details around what those rituals look like or what they entail. But it is not something where you would just be like, I am done twassering, I am now going to give myself some woo 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 time, without actually following the protocols which have been communicated to you by your Gobela and by your Mpande and the codes and ethics of that specific Mpande. Togoza. At Uncle K asks, what extent can a rosy affect one's sexuality? So I get this question quite a lot, right? So when signs of your spiritual awakening are going on, what answering your calling represents is going back to the essence of who you are. Because as we grow, as we live in our lived experiences, we are conditioned both from a familial place by our families' attitudes and values. We are shaped by our community, our society, and dominant conventions. And often we take and internalize those things as defining who we truly are. So if you perhaps grow up in a heteronormative society, or one that encourages, heterosexuality, being straight, a man and a woman, often people will then embody that as the truth of who you are. But because when you go in through the process of untwaso, there are no genders and there are no gender roles. There is no heteronormativity that is practiced there, which would then encourage for certain gender roles and gender behaviors. Often it is typified by the fact that everyone wears the skirts. All of the chores are not exclusively for men and for women because we live in a gendered society. So that gives someone an ability to give themselves the truest expression of all their feminine and masculine selves. And often through that and accepting and embodying lamadloti that you carry, you will find that somebody will, in as part of their spiritual awakening, start to redefine their sexuality. Someone who could have maybe understood themselves as heterosexual suddenly says that maybe I am bisexual, I am, I'm gay, or I am lesbian, or any of the other LGBTQI expressions that are there. And often people will think that it is the rosy or loti that has influenced that, but it's the fact that you are in a safe space where you are allowed to embrace the truth of who you are. And all Idlozi then can do is that you will be able to perhaps at times recognize that I now start to appreciate women more. I will speak from myself. I mean, because I carry male ancestors who are heterosexual, I have a beautiful, beautiful relationship with the fact that I am very connected to women. I find women beautiful. I can appreciate all of that, but I have no sexual desires to be with a woman. I enjoy being in emotional relationships with women, but I do not want to actually go into a romantic relationship with women. So that's as far as idlozi can affect one person's sexuality. Cindy Jr. then asks, does sex make one impure? This question is quite triggering for me because I feel that when we step into spirituality, and as I've spoken, sex is a sacred exchange of energy. Sex is a healing energy. Sex is an energy that is able to allow for us to experience the divine within ourselves. But coming from a religious context, we're often told that, sex before marriage is wrong, sex is something that is impure, something that is sinful. That is the dominant sort of societal condition which we are raised in. But when we go into the spiritual truth of it, what makes one impure is going into sexual relationships which are not in integrity with you. You understand? And what that means is that if I am having sex as a coping mechanism and not because it's something that comes from my deepest and highest desire and highest intention, that will make me impure because I am using it as a coping mechanism. If I am having sex with somebody who all they care about is my body and their sexual pleasure without recognizing me as a person who also needs to receive the same amount of equal pleasure, that will make me impure because I am being rejected. So sex does not, simply put, make one impure. Sex actually is something that can help us to elevate to higher states of connection with self, with our ancestors, and even with the divine creator in itself. Togoza. Miss Lee Jakane asks, are spiritual ties a thing? Togoza, definitely spiritual ties are a thing. Because if we look at it from like a scientific basis, just kissing someone's spit, which has their DNA, stays in your body for something that's about 7 or more years in your body. When you then exchange those sexual fluids and everything, if you're having unprotected sex, even during protected sex, because you sweat into each other, your pheromones and your hormones all interact, you are taking in the essence of that person. And on a spiritual level, it means that there's a certain tie that you are making with that person. But what is important to understand is that spiritual ties or sexual ties are not necessarily a bad thing, because we are all interconnected to each other. Because often people think that of soul ties or sex ties as something that is negative, but yes, it is something that is real. So it means that you carry the responsibility to look into whether is the people that I am having with, do they help to raise my vibrations? Do they help me to magnetize the things which I need to draw closer to me? Do they help me to manifest the things which are in my highest soul intention and soul purpose? Because then are positive sex ties. And if we maybe spend more time cultivating mindfulness and awareness around who are people that are meant for us to help raise our vibrations, then sex also becomes a powerful ritual of manifesting, of bringing closer and birthing, because the birthing power or the creative force of sex does not lay just in giving life to a human being. If we are having sex, we are tapping into the river of creation, and how you channel and focus that creation can help you with things around your career, around your mood, around, your everyday things and purposes which you need to help realize or actualize towards an Ocean Not Frank says, do amadlozi in any manner become a determining factor in sexual orientation or interest? Somebody else has asked that question, and I've already answered it, but I will answer it for you and maybe add another sort of a dimension to it, right? So as I'm sitting here, I identify as a gay man, but within a Lozi context, I have umfati wemadloti, which is the wife of the ancestors. And all that means is that this is somebody that one of my ancestors really cares about. And this person then has been chosen by my ancestors to be the wife or the partner of the ancestors. It does not mean that I need to be sexually or romantically interested in them. All it means is that I need to honor the connection that the Lozi has recognized within them by spending time with them, cultivating that relationship, because there's a certain sort of an energetic vibration that they may carry, which is important in helping to guide and to actualize my spiritual truth towards Dombigaise says it's Toza. So the question is it normal to get pains after you have sex with your partner when you are a spiritually gifted person? So yes, to answer that question, it is possible, because we will speak maybe around the sacral chakra or the Tao. If you are disconnected with your sexual body and your sexual awareness is not at the point where it is embodied, or you have full ownership in terms of what is pleasurable to you, what kind of sex you want to be having, and you're doing sex because it is sort of a romantic obligation that because I am in a relationship, I have to be sexually available for someone, even when within yourself maybe you are not at a space where you should be having sex, then that will manifest physically or express itself physically as you experiencing pain. because every time we experience any sort of a dis-ease within our body, especially a spiritually gifted person, it means that there is something deeper at the root cause of it that is calling for our attention. So it's symptomatically manifesting as pain, but perhaps there are certain rituals you and your partner need to do. Perhaps there are certain sort of understandings you guys need to negotiate around your sexual relationship, and up until that is done, it will then manifest as sexual pains. But I will also recommend that if this is something serious, that you reach out to a healer that you know and you consult so that you can get a clearer understanding as to what that would mean for you specifically. Togoza. Sarah Mash says, Togoza Gogo, can a spiritually gifted person have more than one sex partner? So I'll answer this question. Coming from an indigenous perspective, where we do not believe in heteronormativity or in monogamy as the only truth expression, we have different sort of relationships and arrangements. We know that there is polygamy, where a man will have more than one wife, so it means he'll have more than one sexual partner. We see that a lot in Guni people. We have polyandry, where a woman will have more than one husband, or a husband and a wife, which means that they will have more than one sexual partner. So looking into sort of how we structure our relationships in the highest expression, going to marriage, where our marriage is not trapped to monogamy where you only marry one person, it means that within isintu sethu or sitho sarina, our indigenous knowledge which informs our spirituality, that you can have more than one sexual partner. But what is important is that you do it within integrity. Togoza. See, let us go to the next questions. Here, Asande Igizwa says, how do you find balance between sexual liberation and abstinence for spirituality? Togoza, all of us have an internal communications channel. So how you would find that balance is around really being present and aware within your spiritual truth, and to be able to hear what the call that is emerging for you asks for. There are times, much like we have the seasons, we have spring where the rains fall and all life starts to blossom, right? Then we go into summer where there is abundance, and often in the summer people are very sexual. You know, kumnanzi man, in the summer there's a romantic mood, there's a sexual energy that comes with the summer, which is around, you know, the picking and the harvesting of the fruits. Then we go into autumn, you know, where you start to collect and things start to fall off. So that maybe then when the invitation would be coming from your internal sort of self to say, Gutsi, let us start breaking away from this sexual liberation and start coming back into ourselves. Then we also then have the season of winter where everything is basically goes to sleep and things actually die. And that could be the time where there is an invitation for abstinence. So I'm using the seasons as a metaphor to say that you need to develop a relationship with yourself, with your sexual body, married with your spirituality, to where you can understand firstly through all of the various communications channels, whether the ancestors or the spirit speaks to you through your dreams, through your intuition, through visions, maybe through divining and consulting, to understand that how can I be in integrity with my sexual body. And one of my favorite quotes by Ralph Waldo Emerson is, use, do not abuse, because neither access nor abstinence leads to happiness. That is what I would say, and that is something that can only be authentically prescribed and followed and understood by you yourself as the sexual being in your sexual body. Togoza. At Pumuzli says, besides spiritual ties, Would one's choices in sexual partner result in a change in their life path? E.g., if my gang has shown me my life partner, but I sleep with someone else, can they rescind? Because I love this question because it brings so many thoughts into one space. So the first thing that I will speak about is around a life path. So there is fate and there is destiny. We may have a certain destiny, we may have certain fate which has been prophesied or spoken over us as part of our soul contract. But that fate or that destiny and that purpose is never singular. We have many sort of probable outcomes to the destinies that we can fulfill because we come whole as a universe. So it means that what is reliant upon which life path we take is one that is influenced mainly by what you've named here so beautifully as choosing something else. So our free will determines where our life path will go. So if a specific person or a specific ancestor or a spirit guide has shown you that this is the partner we desire for you, it will probably often represent the ideals or embody the ideals that that particular ancestor would desire for you, and that they understand that within certain parts of yourself would make you be in oneness or would make you really happy, but that does not limit or block you from exploring other parts. Because even just from a sort of a religious or a biblical sort of a viewpoint, even in the Bible it says God has given us free will, and that free will can never be taken away. So that means we always have a choice, because we are not slaves to spirituality. We are in co-creation with Creator, He herself, and with our ancestors as our guides, as our intercessors, as our counsels. Thokoza. At Fundi Barbie says, yo, been waiting for this. If you're spiritually gifted Istunya, can it close imizwa and feelings during sex? Thokoza, so Istunya, for those who don't know, is those that carry the Zionist sort of church expression of their spiritual gifts. And because that has had a lot historically to do with stepping away from the true expressions of ubungoma and having to redefine their gifts in a way that aligned with Christianity, there was a lot of letting go or guzila, lenting, abstaining from the truth of who you are. So often when Istunya is blocking off your feelings within a sexual context, what it represents actually is them asking for them to be healed, to heal the sort of trauma that they experienced of having to step away from their authentic practices to find a way that would align for them to be able to then express their gifts within the way of the church because of the Witchcraft Suppression Act. What I'm saying is that that ancestor is doing that as a symptomatic expression of the fact that there's certain healing work that needs to be done because of the suppression that they have experienced. And because sex is the most powerful energy that exists, they will then express that suppression by suppressing your feelings in the same way as their feelings or their desires were suppressed from expressing their gifts in an authentic or an embodied indigenous way or ngendlela yesintu. Thokoza. Minnie Ree says, is ukuhlanganisa amadlozi important between a healer and their partner if they are not married? Thokoza Gogo. So ukuhlanganisa, for me, what the question is that is it important for you to join your ancestors together when you are somebody who is an initiated healer with your partner but you are not married? So to answer this question, from my view, I would not encourage for you to do rituals that have to do with blood and contracting for a joining of ancestors when you are not yet sure that this is your life partner. There are ways within which you can de-escalate that to perhaps such as ugukunga, of idlozi, which is the introduction or the courtship or informing the ancestors that this is the person that I am with. Ugubiga, that this is my partner, that I'm exploring my sort of romantic self and my romantic and sexual body with the intention that perhaps if things should be in alignment, we will be together, together. But it is important that there is some level of including abadala within that. I think there is actually one more question, and this is the most beautiful question that I've saved right for the end. Bathhouse Mystics asks, what are the teachings and approaches that are unique to Sangomas when it comes to sex and spirituality? Toza, I really would love to go into the fullest expression because this is such a powerful question. But I will give an answer that is sort of relevant to everyone without giving away the sacredness of the fraternity. So as Abangoma, we understand that we are born of our ancestors. Togoza at Bathhouse Mystic asks, what are the teachings and approaches which are unique to Sangomas when it comes to sex? I've saved this question for the very end because it's quite a powerful question and it has asked for me to really reflect deeply. And earlier on, I mentioned that there are certain protocols which are gifted to you and communicated to you once you join the fraternity of Ubungoma because it is sacred. Ingoma, kikoma, if you are not part of that fraternity, then certain rites and certain protocols become unimportant to be expressed to you because they are what keeps the fraternity in sort of integrity. But I will answer around what is important for everyone to know when it comes to sex and things which are unique to Abangoma. From my understanding, from my lived experience, we use sort of sexual energy to actually govern the whole process of Ugutwasa. And how we use the sexual energy is that we use it through intentionally naming that you cannot have any physical contact with other people. So you do not hug, you do not shake hands, you do not kiss, you do not have sex. So what that abstinence does is that it takes away the ownership of your sexual being and your sexual body from being one that is reliant upon others, and it draws you into your inner self, what could be understood sort of in yogic understanding as it takes you into your root and into your sacral, because we understand that our ancestors, especially those of water, reside in the root and the sacral, what we would call umdawe. And umdawe are the water ancestors, the creational ancestors. So this intentionality around this abstinence is to sort of cultivate that energy and to bring back that creation into self, where all of that, what you would have been giving out energetically, you are now pouring in by intentionally noticing the fact that as I go into this process more and more, it's almost as though my sexual body dies, and that sexual, lust and longing and what. Because I realized after 3 months when I was like saying, Guti, yo, I'm a man, but I don't even get morning erections anymore. It's like, what is going on here? But what then I understood is that also there were new things which were being born to me, because what the erection for me then started to represent when I reflected on it is that it is an external expression. When it erects, it wants to shoot out. But now that that's not happening, all of these new sudden interests around, learning how to farm, learning how to cook indigenous food, learning to enjoy nature, was actually a process of having sex, because life in itself, we are constantly engaging in an act of sex whether I am cleaning or I'm going about bringing healing or whatever, it is a certain type of a sexual interaction which births healing, which births cleanliness, with births joy. So that is one of the things which I find are unique, especially within the Sangoma fraternity, supported by the fact that when you are done then ukutwasa, there's a specific ritual or rituals and protocols which you are given and told as to how to then practice so that you can align with your sexual body, so that you can also then remember and come back into the world of other people. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and please definitely let me know if I should do more videos like this where I answer questions. I really enjoy interacting. I really enjoy, sharing from my lived experience. And I will also name specifically that everything that I shared in this video is not a consultation. It is not prescriptive. This is general advice, sharing, guidance, and if you're looking for more explicit and specified answers around some of these sexual questions, I will recommend that you see a healer or isangoma that can be able to then authentically check in with all of the different faculties that they have, so that you get a truly specified answers. Thokozani bogogo nabomkhulu, ngiyatibongela ngingogo Khanyakude, mshengu shabalala tfonga lamavuso lophanako. And as always, if you haven't subscribed, please don't forget to click on the subscription, switch on the notification bell. K Squad, Khanyakude Squad, let there be light, ganging. Thank you to everyone who continues to support to the channel. Siyabonga, magwanzi.